this is Nisha Faye and welcome to my channel. This is where I discuss crimes that happen in South Africa, from murder to kidnapping and anything in between. Lately I have just been doing murder, and today is not that much different. Just because this case really interested me because of the amount of information that I found, and I hope that you find it interesting too. Ooh. Warning, this does contain a lot of graphic descriptions of crimes that were committed. There is child abuse involved, and there's just overall violence, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay, let's get to it. Alright, so today I will be discussing a gentleman by the name of, well, not really gentleman, but a man by the name of Stewart Wilken AKA Boetieboer. And his crimes that he committed were quite heinous. I want you to consider, was he born a murderer, or did his upbringing and circumstance lead him to do what he did? But yeah, let's get to it. Stewart Wilken was born on the 11th of November in 1966 in Boksburg. He was only 6 months old when him and his sister, who was still only a toddler, were abandoned by his mother in a telephone box. Now, living in South Africa, when I think about the telephone boxes, I think of this. Yeah. So I couldn't really understand how you could put them in a telephone box until I did some research and found out that they actually look like this. It was a domestic worker that found the two in this telephone box, and she took them to her employer, only known as Duke. Now, this is where Stewart would already face a lot of issues in his life. He was only a couple of months old, he was abandoned by his mother, and now he was being given to someone, given he didn't really know what was going on, but his life with Duke was unsavory. It is said that he was burnt with cigarettes on his genitals, he was forced to eat out of dog bowls, and that his food would be given to the dogs if he acted up in any way. He was molested by Duke in the most heinous ways. I'm not really going to discuss that, but you can look it up. I will link a source below, but it was pretty horrendous. Now, it was during the time that he was staying with Duke that his sister would disappear, and he never knew what happened to her. He wondered for years where she'd been, and it was suspected that she had been killed, but this was not true, and we'll find out soon enough what actually happened to her. Now, Duke had neighbors, the Wilkens, and they felt very sorry for this little boy. So they took it upon themselves to adopt Stewart. But you would think that now that they felt sorry for him that his life would get better, but it really didn't. Stewart was very troubled, and he really didn't do well at school. He failed grade 1, and as punishment, his mother took away one of his Christmas presents, which would have been a milk truck. Stewart didn't respond to this very well, and he decided to retaliate. He would fail grade 3 a total of 3 times, and it just never ended up well, and this would make him move to a special class. You need to understand that Stewart didn't know that he was adopted, and it was one of his teachers that they say forced or encouraged the children to tease him about the fact that he was adopted, and in response to this, he decided to attack his teacher in the face by beating her, which obviously didn't go well. You also need to remember that back in the day, corporal punishment was still a thing. It was okay for teachers to use physical discipline. The school's principal would use the corporal punishment by beating him with a whip or a stick, it's very unclear, in front of all his classmates. Stewart was only 8 years old when he started smoking dagga. This was another form of retaliation because it wasn't seen to be good. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how an 8-year-old that clearly doesn't have any friends, he's not a favorite of any other teachers, his family don't care much for him. So where did he get it? I'm not sure, and I would like to know. Stewart was sodomized by a deacon at the church that him and his new adopted family attended. It was on one Sunday afternoon where the deacon asked him to go with him home after the Sunday school. And as a child, you thinking, okay, it's the church, it's fine, it's cool. When Stewart was a teenager, he was sent to an industrial school, and he said that he got molested by a lot of the boys that were in the school with him. So Stewart decided to run away. He went to his adopted mother's aunt. He hid there for about a month. She looked after him, but when it was his birthday, she gave him some money and said that he needed to go back to his mother, which he did. Stewart went back to his adoptive parents, and the magistrate's court would say that as long as he passed school, that no one was allowed to harm him. The justice system. Wow. He did keep his promise and he passed grade 11, but after that he went to the army where he was enlisted. He wasn't there for long because he tried to commit suicide, so he was then sent back home. Once moving home, he applied for a new job, and it is during the training for this new job that he had injured his hand, which caused him to go on to disability pension, which he would be on for the rest of his life. Stewart was only 18 years old when he met his first wife, Lynn. His daughter, Wuan. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that completely. I am a Soti and I really don't know how to pronounce it, so I tried my best. She was born on Christmas Day in 1985. Stewart and Lynn got married when their daughter was 5 years old, and that was because the courts were trying to take away Lynn's first child due to just issues. So to make sure that she could keep her son, they got married, which was definitely not the right move on her part. Their marriage did last for 9 years, but it wasn't a good one. During their marriage, Stewart was admitted to the Elizabeth Donkin Psychiatric Facility. He was diagnosed as a psychopath. In the early 1990s, he met his second wife, a woman by the name of Veronica, and she wasn't white, she was actually coloured. Wilken then decided that he would never sleep with another white woman out of fear that it could be his sister because he didn't know where she was. Stewart and Veronica had 2 children together. Veronica also had 2 sons from a previous relationship. Veronica's family did have a lot of issues with Stewart. They didn't trust him and they accused him of sodomizing Veronica's first 2 sons from her previous relationship. This did cause a lot of issues between him and Veronica, and he decided to leave their house. He lived in the veld behind Happy Valley, in PE. Now, Stewart lived there for about a year, just roaming free, as we can say. But Stewart was called in by a sergeant, Sergeant Derek Nosworthy, in connection with the disappearance of his daughter, Wuan, as well as a son who he also had a connection with. Now, Stewart's daughter was last seen 2 years prior, on the 29th of September in 1995, and a boy, Henry Bakers, last seen on the 22nd of February in 1997, both of whom were last seen with Stewart. Suspicious. After talking to him, Stewart realized that he had met his match, and he admitted that he had killed his daughter as well as the little boy. It was a full day of Stewart going and showing where the bodies were, saying to them what he had done to them, all of that. It was a long day. Now, this sergeant was tired, and Stewart was sitting in a chair in his office, and the sergeant thought to himself, what if he killed other people? Maybe I should ask. So then he asks, after a full day, he asks, so have you killed anyone else? And Stewart says, well, now that you mention it, yes I have. And that is where Stewart's full confession started. And boy, is it a bad one. This is where you might want to, click away for a sec. On a night on the 3rd of October 1990, when he was still married to his first wife, Lynn, he had an argument with her and he got very upset. So he went and got a prostitute, Virginia Geisman, in Russell Road, Port Elizabeth. She asked him for 50 rand so that they could have consensual sex nearby a school. He had sex with her and then proceeded to have oral sex and then proceeded to have anal sex, about which she did complain. He was appalled and he decided to strangle her with a piece of clothing, and then he left her body in the school grounds. 10 January 1991, he met Maria Pappenfuss, also a sex worker, at the Red Lion Hotel. She propositioned him. He took her to the St. George's Park, where she demanded money before sex. This enraged Wilken. He was on the opinion that he didn't need to pay for sex because the act of sexual pleasure was given both to men and women by God. He decided to strangle her with her clothing and then had sex with her corpse. The 21st of October 1991, Wilken met a 14-year-old street child who propositioned him for sex. According to Wilken, he consented to the sex. This was at the St. George's Park as well. The boy demanded the money, which enraged Wilken, and the boy tried to run away. He then sodomized the boy and strangled him with the clothing while he climaxed. Now, somewhere between June 1993 and the 21st of September 1993, the decomposed body was eventually discovered. Wilken did meet another street boy of about 14 years old near the Norwich building. He asked the boy if he would do certain sexual acts to him, and the boy agreed. This was by the Fort Frederick Museum in Midtown, where the boy did the sexual act. He did end up sodomizing this boy, and the boy threatened to inform the police, so this angered Wilken, who strangled him with a belt and hid the body in a bush. On the 21st of July 1995, Wilken met Georgina Sweeney, another sex worker, at the Sydenham Primary School. She asked him for money. This enraged him. He sodomized her and then strangled her with her clothing. He then took his knife, inserted it into her lower region, cut her open. He also sliced off her nipples and ate them, and then threw her clothing into a fish pond. So this was the only act of mutilation on a corpse that he would do, so it was pretty intense. On the 29th of September in 1995, Wilken went to visit his daughter. She apparently, I don't know if this is true, admitted to him that her stepfather had been sexually abusing her, and he wanted to save her so that she could go to heaven, so he killed her. After he killed her, he lay next to her body for a very long time. He laid out her clothes and would lay next to that too. He was just messed up, man. Just messed up. Now, the sergeant did ask if he had raped one, and he said that he hadn't, but that he had inspected her to discover that she wasn't a virgin, and this made him feel gratified that he did it, that he saved her soul in whatever twisted way it could be. Yeah. Now, when the bodies of the boys were found, it was proven that he went back to the bodies and he had sex with their corpses. To prevent maggots and things going in their anuses, he stuffed newspaper in them. And when it got so bad that he couldn't have sex with the corpses anymore, then he would move on to the next person, which is disgusting. They did ask him why he cut off the nipples of the one victim, and he said it was so that he could get back the mother's milk that he had so far longed for, which is messed up. Wilken was charged with 10 murders, but only convicted for 7. He is currently serving 7 life sentences in the St. Albans prison in Port Elizabeth. He is said to suffer from nightmares from all the ghosts of his victims, and he is terrified. He just wants to die. He wants to get it over with. During this time, Stewart's biological mother was tracked through the sergeant that was dealing with his case. She is said to have cried over the phone and said that she just wanted to see her little boy, and Stewart and her would have a conversation. When Stewart found out that his mother had been looking for him all his life, he cried. That's the first time he ever cried in his entire life for this kind of reason. So the truth came out, and his mother ended up taking his sister when he was just a baby. You see, his mother gave him up because she was pregnant at the time, and Stewart's father was not happy about it, so she had to get rid of them. But then she ended up taking his sister back anyway. So yeah, that is the case of Stewart Wilken AKA Boetieboer. I don't even know if I said that, but yeah, that was what he would call himself, his other persona. I didn't say it, did I? But yeah, that was a crazy case. It was very intense. What are your thoughts? I mean, for me personally, I feel that the reason why he raped little boys was to get dominance over them because he was molested as a child. I think the reason why he killed female prostitutes was out of anger, out of the loss of his mother, when finding out that he was given up and not knowing where his sister was, and just he had a rough childhood. I'm not saying at all that that excuses what he did, but it does explain what he did, in my mind at least. So yeah, that was the case. It was tough. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as you could. And yeah, let me know your thoughts, any suggestions you have about videos for the future, and I hope that you have a lovely day. Oh, please do subscribe, do like, do click the bell icon, just everything happy. Yay! What?